Okay, so can AI actually plan? Like, I'm talking about really strategize, not just follow a set of instructions. We're diving into some fascinating research today.
Yeah, this paper, it really digs into that question. It's called uh, LLMs Still Can't Plan. Can LRMs, a preliminary evaluation of OpenAI's O1 on PlanBench.
Catchy title. But
Yeah.
seriously, the idea that we're pushing AI beyond just language processing into, like, actual reasoning, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is, and it makes you think about all those times when even we struggle with planning.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, tell me about it. I've lost hours of my life to those infuriating flat pack furniture instructions. If I can barely handle that, how can we expect AI to even begin to grasp that kind of problem solving?
Well, that's where this PlanBench thing comes in. It's a benchmark test the researchers use to see if AI models could handle these increasingly complex planning puzzles.
Planning puzzles. So, like, what are we talking about here? Sudoku for robots.
Kind of. One test, the blocks world, is particularly interesting. Imagine a robot, right? And it's got to figure out how to stack these virtual blocks in a specific order. Sounds pretty basic, maybe even a little too easy.
You say that like it's way more complicated than it sounds. So these AI models, they struggled with it.
Struggled is putting it mildly. See, large language models, your GPTs, they're amazing at recognizing patterns, but true reasoning, that's a whole other ballgame.
So, like, LLMs are great at finding the well-trodden path, but ask them to navigate something new, and they're completely lost.
Exactly. They can retrieve information like nobody's business, but when it comes to coming up with actual new solutions, they just blank. And that's where these large reasoning models, or LRMs, come in.
Okay, so LRMs are like the next generation. And this paper, it looks at one in particular, right? OpenAI's O1, how it stacks up against the LLMs on this block stacking challenge.
Right, so when it came to the simpler tasks, the LLMs, they did okay. But the second things got a bit more complicated.
A bit. How complicated are we
Well,
talking?
like, imagine having to think several steps ahead, anticipate problems.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's getting up there. And the LLMs, they just couldn't hack it.
Let's just say they hit a wall, kind of like,
Like they hit a wall and just froze, like deer in the headlights kind of thing.
yeah, basically. They just couldn't see the bigger picture, the whole strategy. And then the researchers, they threw in this whole other curveball, the mystery blocks world.
Mystery blocks world. Okay, now you have to explain that one because that just sounds mysterious.
Right, so picture this. You've got the same blocks, the same goal, but now all the instructions, they're in a completely made-up language.
You know, like instead of pick up the red block, it's all flurgle the gargle bog.
Exactly. And suddenly, these LLMs, they're totally lost. They had learned to associate specific words with actions, but they hadn't actually grasped the underlying concepts.
Wow. So their knowledge was just superficial. Like they could parrot back what they'd learned, but they didn't really understand it. Kind of makes you think about what it means for AI to really understand something, doesn't it?
It's a huge question. And this is where it gets really interesting because this is where O1, that large reasoning model, starts to really shine. When they tested it on PlanBench, it consistently outperformed those LLMs, solving way more puzzles, even some of the really tricky ones.
Okay, so the LRM, it's showing some serious potential here. But I have a feeling there's a but coming.
Well, there's always a but, isn't there? O1, it's impressive, but it's not perfect. It still struggles with those really, really complex scenarios. And here's the thing. Sometimes it comes up with these plans that are, well, completely impossible to actually execute in the real world.
Wait, so not just bad planning, but like hilariously bad planning, like turn left here to reach your destination, which happens to be in the middle of the ocean. Kind of bad.
It's kind of like that, yeah. And that's what's a little unnerving. It shows the limitations of what we're currently calling reasoning in AI.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can make these logical leaps, but it doesn't always have that grounding in reality that we do.
Which brings us back to that whole black box problem. We see what goes in, we see what comes out, but that process in between, it's still a mystery. We don't know how it's making these plans, good or bad.
Exactly. And that lack of transparency, it becomes even more concerning when you consider the cost. The paper found that O1, as impressive as it was way more resource intensive than those traditional approaches. Took more time, more processing power to get those results.
So it's a trade-off then, right? More power, but at what cost? So it's a trade-off then, right? More power, but at what cost? It makes you wonder, is it worth it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like having this incredibly powerful engine, but no owner's manual in sight. You can drive it, sure, but who knows what's happening under the hood?
And heaven forbid if it breaks down, right? You're
Right.
totally stranded.
Exactly. And that's what makes this black box problem so, so important. We can get excited about the results, sure, but if we don't understand how the AI is getting there,
Mm.
how can we ever really trust it? Especially when we start talking about, you know, real-world applications, complex situations.
It's like trusting a GPS to navigate through a jungle. You might get lucky, but
But you're probably better off with a map and compass, right? And that's what we're missing with these AI systems right now. That map, that understanding of how they're making decisions. And the researchers, they really emphasize this. It's not enough to just celebrate how far we've come.
yeah.
We also need to acknowledge those limitations and those potential pitfalls of just focusing on performance over understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. It can't just be about the what, right? It's also about the how. But how do you even begin to tackle that? I mean, understanding the decision-making process of AI, it's like trying to read the mind of, I don't know, a supercomputer or something.
Is a huge challenge, absolutely. But the paper, it points to some promising directions. Like one idea is developing techniques to kind of visualize or explain the AI's reasoning path.
So like instead of just turn left and 200 feet, we get to see the whole route, understand why that left turn is necessary.
Exactly. It's about making the AI's thought process more transparent and, in turn, more trustworthy.
So we're still in the early stages then with AI planning. A lot of exciting potential, but still a long way to go.
Well, definitely. But that's what makes this whole field so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
We're not just building machines. We're trying to understand and, in a way, reverse engineer one of the most complex things we know of, the human mind.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting, isn't it?
Absolutely. But that's the beauty of it, I think. There's always something new to learn, new challenges to tackle. And who knows, maybe someday we'll have AI systems that can not only plan like humans, but also explain their reasoning in a way that we can all understand.
That's a future I'm excited to see unfold. And on that note, I want to thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of AI planning, and thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. It's a complex topic, for sure, but hopefully we've shed a little light on just how far we've come and the challenges that still lie ahead. Until next time.